What's up, guys? Conor McGregor is back in the news. So number one, he actually submitted in the USADA pool. So it looks like he's going to actually be competing. We don't know exactly when that's going to be, but Michael Chandler says some things like they're going to fight probably early next year. But despite that, Conor has been also putting out a couple sparring videos out here, and they're pretty interesting. The guy actually looks pretty good. Now, it is sparring, so take it with a grain of salt translating some of that to an actual fight. And number two, his sparring partners aren't the greatest. They never really were, though. Conor was always kind of like a big fish in a small pond, outside of sparring maybe against Gunnar Nelson. He had that one thing with Ian Gary, but for the most part, he's sparring against lesser fighters, and it seems to be a way he likes to go and spar, and this is nothing different. But he does show some good techniques out here that not only do look good for his fighting return, but also something that we can learn from as well. There's a lot of educational pieces what he shows in his sparring videos, specifically the second clip. So what you can learn a lot out of this is a different way to condition the opponent for different kind of strikes. We're usually used to seeing one form of conditioning, and that is through like illusions or tricking the opponent that some strike is going to come. Showing their left hand a lot, the opponent thinks that's the thing that's going to be coming, and then you throw your right hand, intercepting their defensive head movement. That is a form of conditioning that we're used to seeing for the most part in MMA. Conor does some different stuff here. The first clip is going to be a lot of the universal form of conditioning that we see, but the second clip is going to show a lot more wrinkles to that. So as we can see right here, his opponent seems to be a little bit taller than him, is in the orthodox stance, and as you know from Conor McGregor, he is very good at defending against orthodox punches, specifically the right hand. You're going to see a lot of that in this one. Conor, what he first does is he fakes that right lead jab. This is to bait out the opponent's lead hand parry, which uniformly follows up with a right straight of his orthodox opponent. Conor is a master and still one of the absolute best in the world at outside slips on orthodox straights, slipping your head on the outside of that punch, lining them up with his left hand. He is so good at this that he even got the best boxer of all time, Floyd Mayweather, with this outside slip left counter, that uppercut in the first round. And look how slightly he moves on the outside of it. The smaller space there is between your head and the opponent's punch while you're slipping it, the better it's going to be, because there's a shorter retraction range for you to get back at them, ultimately making the counter punch seem like it's going to come out a lot faster. The distance is shorter, the time is shorter, the punch is going to get there quicker. And Conor lands a left straight to the body. The opponent thought it was going to be a left hand to the head that we're used to seeing from Conor. He doesn't usually slip on the outside of right straights and go to the body with his left. He goes over to the top like he did famously against Ivan Butchinger. Still to this day, my favorite knockout of Conor McGregor's entire career. We also do see Conor kicking more with his left leg, so that is good news considering his injury. It's been quite a long time, so he's most likely recovered fully. And here comes another fake jab to bait out the opponent's rear hand parry this time. So as you can see, his opponent took the southpaw stance. He is much taller than Conor actually. And this switch is going to give different openings for Conor McGregor. So he goes and reaches out with his lead hand and gets it closer to the opponent's rear left, further encouraging his opponent to try to parry that hand, which is luring that hand away from defending the head. Because his hand is now forward in front of him, there is nothing defending the left side of his head. Conor sees that opening. He pounces on that opening with a spinning hook kick. Now, he did take speed off of the kick for sparring, right? He doesn't want to knock his opponent out, showing that this sequence can prove very effective in a real fight. Hook kicks are also notoriously harder to guard properly than other variations, due to the arching motion that can sneak around a single guard, as shown here. The opponent attempts to block it, but he only blocks it with one hand and it still gets around it. And also notice that there's a lack of follow through with the kick after it connects, showing that Conor did not throw this with too much power, even though spinning kicks to the head in sparring is usually prohibited. You're not supposed to really throw stuff like that. But Conor seems to be so in control of his kicks, slowing down the speed, not putting too much power, but also showing the opponent that he can connect through that opening that he created. That's what sparring is supposed to be about. I would love to see him implement this in an actual fight. Now his opponent nods and reaches to touch gloves with Conor like a kind gesture, and Conor attacks the body, maybe thinking his opponent was attempting to reach out with the same lead hand parry again, but then Conor fakes his lead jab again to get his opponent to reach out to parry it, luring the hand away from defending his head, and Conor swiftly reaches long with the left cross, straight to the chin. Another fake lead hand chains a reaction from his opponent to shoot under for a takedown this time. He's not going to get tricked for a fourth time on trying to parry that feint, but all of these feints from Conor are little movements, allowing Conor to properly react after with no retraction time. If he committed with the jab, it would be a different story. So Conor intelligently attempts the intercepting uppercut to cut off that takedown, but let's be honest, the shot from his opponent was not good at all. Almost like his sparring partner just fell to the ground after creating contact, but you do have to note that Conor does sprawl on the takedown and force his head downward, removing any meaningful forward drive from that takedown. So excellent stuff from Conor McGregor here in the first clip. And then we look at the second clip, which is going to be entirely boxing. As you can see, they have shoes on, they have boxing gear, bigger gloves, and Conor starts us out with intelligently banging out a powerful left straight to force focus from his opponent on that powerful punch that may come again. This is a different type of conditioning he's putting on his opponent. Even with the overextension of that punch though, Conor still smoothly slips the counter right from his opponent. He's so good at doing that. Now, what you're going to be seeing here is this is conditioning with power, causing a huge sense of danger, forcing the opponent to repeatedly take actions of preparation for that powerful strike, which creates more openings. It's almost like a sense of getting a huge amount of respect out of the opponent for a certain kind of strike. And in this case, it's Conor McGregor's left straight. So Conor loads up, he gets right in front of him, loads up big, and the first sense of reaction from his opponent is going to evade that same powerful left straight he just experienced. So his opponent covers up and attempts to duck under the punch while also getting in closer, trying to limit that space from the straight. When you duck in, cover up, and move into your opponent, anticipating a left straight, that straight is not going to have as much extension to deliver with power. Hooks is a different story, but straights need extension in order to deliver with a lot of power, especially from a long fighter like Conor McGregor. But Conor predicts this perfectly by intercepting the head movement with a bolo-style uppercut. And notice how a lot of that motion from the uppercut is moving into the opponent. A lot of power generating into this. It shows you how perfectly he predicted this, that he would deliver with that much power moving forward, all of his weight into his front leg. So now that Conor saw this reaction from his left, he plays with it again to see if it continues. Does his opponent do it again? Well, let's see here. He probes his left hand out forward, which again gets his opponent to duck and lean in just like last time. He's trying to suffocate that left straight, but that left from Conor was a feint, fooling his opponent into leaning in, exposing his ribs for the right hook. When you lean forward like this and bring your hands up to your head, your ribs are going to be exposed. Now a little bit different here. Conor leads in with a probed lead hand to trap the opponent's lead hand. So they're both in opposite stances and their lead hands are in front of each other. While Conor is moving inward, he brings his lead right hand in front of his opponent's lead left in order to trap that in place. Conor is a master at this against orthodox fighters. He also fakes his left hand to cause the opponent to act defensively, allowing himself to enter into space safely. This is very intelligent work. If his opponent acted offensive, then Conor would not be able to enter in safely as he did. So he had to create a sense of danger, which is going to be using that left hand, to get his opponent to act defensively so he can step in. After Conor moves in and settles, his opponent addresses that he got tricked. Nothing came out. That left hand was only a fake. It didn't actually come out there. So his opponent flips the switch into offense and tries to intercept Conor with the right hand, which actually hits Conor. A miscalculation on Conor's part. But Conor lands a left hand to the body on his opponent. So this is a good form of sparring. You don't want to always be successful with everything you do. Miscalculating on this part from Conor McGregor is going to force adjustments. Right, he's going to have to learn from this situation. Now, Conor slows everything down. He starts walking in front of his opponent with his hands up and moves slower than usual. He reaches out with his long left straight, just a touch, not to hurt his opponent, just to place it on his head. Being able to touch your opponent with the left hand like this allows you to know that you can also touch him with your right hand as well. It's just going to depend on what the opponent's reaction is going to look like to this annoying left hand that's placed on his head. His opponent ducks, so it's a very similar kind of motion he's done before. Conor sees his opponent head lower, but he does not intercept it yet. He could, and it's risky that he actually didn't, because he could have missed on this opportunity. Instead, he waits on his opponent to counterattack first, so he can ensure his right hand lands with more impact. Counters against strikes usually hurt a lot more, as it is intercepting a rapid motion. When you're throwing a punch forward, you're usually moving forward quickly with the punch. So countering this is going to intercept that rapid motion, increasing the damage, and also catching your opponent unexpected, further increasing the damage. But for Conor to wait for that moment could have made him miss this opportunity completely if his opponent had another kind of reaction. If he just intercepted the head movement earlier, that duck, everything would have been completely insured. But the fact that it all worked out, he still landed that right uppercut, showed the high level of confidence Conor had. He knew exactly what he was doing, man. That's a high level move right there. So notice how Conor earlier slowed down his tempo. He reached out with his left, he was waiting for his opponent to attack first, there was a long pause, and then he even threw his right uppercut without that much speed, just to catch the opponent, letting them know, I got you. Here's a completely different thing. Now this is another form of conditioning, which I like to call conditioning with tempo. So Conor goes to a stop, and he stands right in front of his opponent still, and then immediately ramps up the tempo instantly with a big outside step, opening up the left straight, the classic opening from the opposite stance fighter. Changing the tempo like this in itself can confuse the opponent on what's to come. It's another form of conditioning. Yoel Romero, for an example, has surprised a lot of his opponents doing this. You get them conditioned into a slow motion, and they're going to expect that slow motion. And then when you immediately, out of nowhere, change it into quick tempo, they're not going to be ready for it, right? They're going to expect that slow motion again. Beautiful stuff from Conor McGregor here, man. And that's ultimately it. 2 clips, a lot to learn from these. Conor McGregor still has a lot of gems, man. He's not even that old, he's just been out of the game for a long time. And I really hope he is taking these things seriously. His sparring does show like he is, and the fact that he's going back into the USADA pool also is some good news too. So the game is always better with Conor McGregor around, unless he's holding up divisions, of course. With him just competing, it's always a good time. So I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown, and if you did, make sure to give this a like, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video.